Welcome, everybody, to the Jupiter in Astrology Masterclass. We're about to hop in today. We're going to get started, break down all the in-betweens. I'm really excited to hop in with this with you all in this process. Thank you all for showing up. Hopefully everything is working. And if you can hear me and if you're here, make sure that you let me know just so I could double check. But outside of that, let's start to dig into one of the most prominent and important planets within all of astrology. Now, granted, every planet is important, but when we think about the things that we want, our human desire, what's going on with our human condition and the way that we want things to go, Jupiter, if used correctly and if recognized correctly within your chart, can be your best friend in terms of you actually activating the luck, success, and abundance that you're looking for in your world. So Jupiter, which is known as the planet of luck, and you don't get that name for no reason. But what Jupiter does is that it brings fortunes and blessings to us based on our human conditions. So if you've ever seen somebody hit a rags to riches type of story, right? What happened in the grand scheme of things, and if we want to simplify, is that Jupiter came through in order to bless them, right? Now, let's get a little bit deeper into this. Let's start to break this down a little bit more, because not only is this about luck and abundance, but the archetypal nature of Jupiter is also known as Guru. So if you talk to anybody who's more on the side of like the Indian astrology, etc., literally I looked up Sasha Fally, what's good, yo? But the idea of like Jupiter being the planet that's Guru, it's the biggest planet in the solar system. It's about 200 times the size of the planet Earth, if not 100 times. I think it's 100 times, if you want to quote me. But at the very least, it is at least 100 times the amount of what Earth looks like, right? And so Jupiter is actually outside of what's known as the asteroid belt. I've talked about this a little bit in my other masterclasses. And if you didn't know, I have a masterclass on just about everything thus far. So if you haven't checked that out yet, and if you're watching this in the future, I probably do. So you might as well watch the other videos while you're here. But the one most important part to Jupiter that I want to say is that this is where you find your power, your finesse, your charisma. Until you realize Jupiter in your chart, you're not going to seem as charismatic to people. Till you find Jupiter in your chart, you're not going to know what type of places and environments you're able to really like come up in. Until you know your Jupiter, when it comes to all the manifestation, abundance, how you gain abundance, you don't even know how to start if it comes to that, because some people's luck comes to them super fast. Oh, where did that come from? Some people's luck come from them in a long grand scheme time. Some people's luck comes immediate, randomly. How did that happen? And some people's luck comes from after they like go through a real emotional breakdown, or they go through real emotional background in the things that they're trying to do and achieve. So some people really have to dive in order for them to find their sense of luck. Some people are gaining luck from the outskirts of what's happening around them. But we're going to be breaking that all down today. So for all you who are just joining in right now, again, my name is Maverick. I am leaning into that name more as I step into life, because I realize it's not just a title anymore. It's exactly who I am. But that has a lot to even do with my own journey with Jupiter, right? So as we're ending off Sagittarius season, I felt so compelled to make sure that we use this energetic to talk about this. Appreciate all y'all for the patience throughout this Sagittarius season and this Mercury retrograde in Sag. It was kicking my behind, my patootie, for lack of a better term, right? So the idea behind this whole vibe that we're getting into today, we're going to talk about the symbolism. We're going to talk about some more of the facts. I have a lot of notes here today, so we'll be able to go through this. There will be a lot of yapping, but I am going to really be digging in. So make sure that y'all leave any questions and comments and love and the likes and all that stuff in this process. And if you're watching this later on, please make sure that you leave a like. Share this with someone that you think wants to know a little bit more astrology. And this will be in my astrology masterclass playlist. So we're going to be going through that. We're going to be talking about Jupiter returns and oppositions really quickly, because that is an important side to things. And most importantly, we're going to be going through each Jupiter and how it goes through your chart by your zodiac sign. I'm going to separate them all by element. So for everyone who wants to group in, when you were listening earlier and you're like, well, how does my Jupiter work? That's where we're going to start to get to the nitty gritty. And you have companions within your element and your energy as well. Think of it as Jupiter Hogwarts houses, if you will, right? Now, we're going to get into the mythos. And actually, I want to break in the mythos early because one thing I think gets really separated from astrology a lot of the times is the mythos and the stories and the lore that kind of happen behind them. And one thing about Jupiter is that Jupiter loves a good story. As a matter of fact, Jupiter can stand up, tell the story, rivet the crowd, and have everybody go get drinks and be merry and enjoy stuff and go canoodle with whoever they like most at the end of the night. Then Jupiter is having the absolute best time. But let's talk a little bit more about the king of the gods, quote unquote, being Jupiter. So Jupiter, the planet energetically, and what it represents is in the archetypes within a lot of different pantheons, gods and goddesses, cultures. There is, no matter what you believe in, there's going to be something in whatever culturally you're from that will have a representation to Jupiter. And Jupiter is what? Opulence. But not only that, Jupiter is the king. And one thing I do want to point out to people that I don't get into like super often because it's semantic-y, right? But when we think about the sign of Jupiter, Jupiter in that Sagittarian vibration is more of the kingship than the Leo vibration, right? The only reason why I'm bringing this up in this capacity is because Jupiter has the spiritual royalty as well. Now, the difference between the Jupiterian royalty and the Leo type of royalty is that the Jupiterian royalty is like, yeah, I'm the king, but that is what it is. I'm still going to do whatever I want. Whereas the Leo royalty is like, I need to stand in my power. It's a little bit different. But let's talk about the culprit one, the easiest way for us to understand. And I literally always have my Jupiter on my desk. 1 second, y'all. I'm going to go grab it real quick just to let you know. Make sure that y'all drop some love. I'm going to go grab it because it's right over to the side. Okay, I'm back. Haha. But literally, I've had this figurine of Jupiter like my entire life. Also, excuse the fingernail. I was doing some cleaning stuff a second ago. But when we get to this, right? This is Jupiter. This is what we know as Zeus. This is the rendition that Zeus was shown in Disney's Hercules, one of the best Sagittarian movies of all time. But the idea when it gets to him is that he was the king. How did he become king, though? We don't talk about that often. Zeus became king because his father at the time, who was Kronos or Saturn, or the god, the Titan of time, to be specific. The Titan of time essentially heard that there was going to be one of his children who was going to one day usurp his rule and become the king. And since Kronos or Saturn at this time in this story didn't know which one of his 6 children that he just bore, or 5, I think, at the time, he ended up being like, yo, I don't know which one it is, but they're all up. He literally ate them and had them live in his stomach. Now, they didn't get digested or nothing, but they were pretty much inside of his stomach and grew up in this Titan's stomach. I know when we get to old stories, things get weird, but if you look it up, it'll check out. Now, the only one that got saved from this situation was the baby Zeus, who was the youngest out of all of his children. The reason how they saved baby Zeus is because the other goddesses at the time, or the Titan goddesses at the time, gave Kronos a rock, a big rock, and made him think that it was Zeus when he had that moment. However, Zeus grew up separate from everything else. He was able to be taught the things that he needed to know in order for him to become a warrior, circle the block, and then usurp the throne when it comes to the Titans, right? Now, I don't know if y'all saw my new moon in Sagittarius video, or I think it was the last video I did, but I remember talking about how Simba's story was very similar to Zeus's upcoming. But here's what happened. Zeus comes through. He's fighting all of the Titans. He knocks all of his brothers and sisters, who are also at this point grown, fully fledged, powerful gods and goddesses, out of the stomach of Kronos, or the Titans at the time. And then all the gods band together to defeat the Titans and then basically opened up the dawn of civilization as we know it today, right? So I know that's a bit lengthy in terms of that. But once Jupiter does become king, although he was the youngest, they give him the most respect, the most renowned, and also he was by proxy the most powerful. But here's the kicker with Zeus. When Zeus was fully in his work being king of the gods, he was 100% being like he had the most power, so to speak. He had the most renown, he had the most respect, and they didn't really question his rule when it came to his rule. Now, on the other side of Zeus, we have 1,000 terrible stories about how he ended up with all of these little demigod children and how much he ended up messing around with Hera. Now, this is the negative side. Think about the worst energy that you can get from any Sagittarius or Pisces you ever know. That was Zeus's shadow side. Zeus's shadow side was that Zeus was just a horny old dog and said, I'm going to figure this all out. And so, but at the time, which I find really interesting, is that when I've done a lot of research back in the day, when I looked up like, yo, wasn't that supposed to be bad? Wasn't that supposed to be a sin? And because of his energetic, everyone was kind of like, I mean, he's the king. It doesn't matter, which I always thought was interesting. Now, what's your interpretation? That's for you to figure out. But I do want to at least break down all of that part, is that even despite his flaws, his energetic was so powerful that even in books, they were like, oh, no, he was fine. It was OK. Just wanted to point that out because that is an important factor to this. Because at the most, Jupiter always followed his abundance, his lust of creating things. And he also, at certain times, was temperamental. He was smiting people. There was literally a story about Zeus where it's actually the story of Zeus, Chiron, and Prometheus. And if you were not familiar, I do explain this fully in my Chiron video. But basically, he ended up getting rid of the Titan of fire, which is what actually activated humanity to let ourselves do anything to begin with. That's where we got the first food. That's when you think about when cavemans first got their fire. Prometheus gave that to them. The fire was only supposed to be reserved for the gods. This is very important. Fire at the time was only supposed to be reserved to the gods at hand. And the reason why this is so interesting is because the gods were the ones that were lighting the fires for people to eat. It was the gods who were doing that. That's when there was a different type of relationship between like the pantheons that we know today and how we may view it on a day-to-day. It was much more present in this world, right? But here's the real kicker. He was the divine judge, right? He had the virtues of power, but he was still flawed. Okay, let's continue to another person. So not only do we have Jupiter really representing this, but if you get into Egyptian mythology or Kemet, and for those who know, you know, but I'm gonna keep it simple today. Amun-Ra was the manifestation of the sun back in the day. Now, there's some tellings, and I don't know the accuracy of this fully, but there's some tellings that back in the day, Jupiter or Saturn used to be either our sun or moon before a lot of things changed. I don't know the full totality of that. Some of those parts make sense. I'm not trying to get nobody confused, but just to let you know, the power of this was that Ra's role was to basically be the kingmaker. And so when we think about pharaohs, when we think about kings, when we think about people of hierarchy, they have to have some type of Ra, or they have to have some type of Jupiter, or they have to have some form of king of the gods to give them their presence in the first place. So if we want to break this down at a very simple, before a pharaoh or a king even became a king, Jupiter had to give its blessing, right? So where does Jupiter play out in modern time? Right. Oh, then the last piece of Jupiter, at least the way that we've seen Jupiter in recent timings, is if we think about the Avengers. If you've watched the Avengers, which most people have at this point, the Avengers, Thor is a representative of Jupiter in that mythology. Do you see how there's a different Jupiter that plays out? And now we see Marvel's Thor. What was it about Thor? when I remember as soon as the door came out, every lady was like, he's so handsome. He looks so great, right? And if you look at the Thor was a pretty jolly guy. He was, let's drink and be merry. He was, let's break their faces in because we're the true warriors, right? And then over time, you start to see him develop emotionally. You start to see that there's cracks in the armor that's going on there. In terms of his Jupiterian part too, there was even a time frame in the actual lore of the Avengers where he got depressed, and Jupiter also rules expansion. So what he started doing, he started drinking too much. He got a little bit bigger. He was dealing with all that. And it wasn't until he realized that he was worthy of his kingship again, when the hammer came back to him, that he was like, oh, shoot, I'm still worthy. And then he got to pull back in his power, go Jupiter it up and shot lasers out of his eyes, started knocking stuff around. Jupiter has a lot to do with not just the belief, but the belief in yourself. It has not just to do with the belief of that, but the faith in yourself. And I think that the idea of Jupiter in modern times, this is just how you relate to the core part of your personal main character energy. This is where you gain those opulence and those opportunities in that process, right? So I appreciate for those of y'all who ended up going through with me for a little bit of the mythos. I, as a ninth house Sag, am very let's open up your minds to this. You know, take them as they are. Some people see them as allegories. Some people see it as like, you know, these were really religions back in the day. So I just want to give you a little bit of context so you can also explore that on your own and find out, where does Jupiter play out in your own background for your own culture? Who is a deity that rules Jupiter? How does that relate to you? That's going to give you a lot more clues and context, but that's a little bit of the sauce. What I will say, we're about to dive back in. So I appreciate every one of y'all who is here with me live. Thank you to all of y'all who are watching later on as well. Make sure you leave a like because I'm beautiful and no other reason. But if you like the information, leave a comment. There we go. So let's move on over, right? Where did it go? Oh, there we go. Well, first and foremost, just want to let you know, if anybody wants to get a Jupiter mini reading done, right? This is your chance to do so. I'm going to drop it over in the comments afterward for the live stream. It's for y'all to see this as well. I'm having these for any class I end up doing. I'm going to have a mini reading option. So I'm bringing back the live streams to use the mini reading options. If you're watching this years from now, there's going to be something that you could buy, I'm sure. Now, this is one of those situations. Thank you, Shafali. Much love. But this is one of those situations to where this is Jupiter. You want to get the breakdown. We're going to have something straight to your email, breaking down those part of your charts. Yes, I'm going to be explaining it today, but me seeing every part of your astrology in that process is going to help out a lot. Side note, if you do like the program that you see me dancing as I start to open up a couple of charts, right? I just want to let you know, your boy has become an affiliate over with Luna Astrology, which is a cloud related software. I don't know about y'all. I've personally been pulling up charts. That's my job. I've always had my charts open. I've always needed to do things. And as a tech head, as y'all know, have to go between PC or a Mac, or sometimes I have to pick up something random and I'm like, oh man, if only this program was able to work everywhere. Well, that's what we have Luna Astrology for. So I just wanted to give you a little context as to like how that's going on. And if you want to sign up for it, I believe the link is in the description. If not, it'll be in the next one. So the last thing that I do want to mention before we get into more of this Jupiter is that if you haven't signed up for my newsletter yet, you are bugging out. I have so many newsletters in advance. And guess what I did for y'all? 3 days in advance. I literally sat here for the longest time, I'm not gonna lie, and pointed out everything that is happening in this upcoming Capricorn season. I did not do a 2025 reading, but you want to know what I did? And I made sure there was a reading for every single person here. So just want to let you all know, if you need that information, this is the channel to be at. And make sure that you subscribe, sign up for a reading. I'm having my last homie sale as this end of the year starts to go through. And yeah, been signed up for your Substack. I appreciate you, soul called business. You know what I'm saying? Speaking of soul and business, Jupiter. Let's dig into that idea, right? So now that we talked about the other jargon, we have gotten rid of the people who shouldn't know this information anyway. Let's get to the next part. Respectfully, of course. But The next thing that I do want to point out is that Jupiter is about like business in a lot of cases. Because when we think about Jupiter, I have to also point out the concept of reward. Now, here's the part that most people don't get about Jupiter. I know we call it the planet of luck, but as a Sagittarius who really exists and lives in this vibration and this thought process, this has nothing to do with luck. Jupiter has to do with opening yourself up to what spirit has to show you. And that's the difference between luck and not luck. And that's what people don't get. If you see something, a synchronicity that only makes sense to you, and you follow that synchronicity and good things happen, people will look at you and say it's lucky. Oh, you got so lucky with that thing. It's not luck. Jupiter isn't about luck for real. Jupiter is about the experience that you have and the gains that you can gain when you do follow through with the experience. Because as much as we think about Jupiter as like, oh my God, I got $10 billion, I'm rich, no one can tell me anything ever again. Right. As much as we think of it like that, Jupiter is also the entire adventure that you took in order to get the thing. You've ever watched a movie, which I'm sure you have. I'm thinking about like every movie that's like a coming of age movie. Every coming of age movie, I think is technically a Jupiter opposition, but that's another story. We'll get there later. But I think every like real adventure story, if you watch it, any action adventure movie, pick a genre, whatever, like any action adventure movie is a Jupiter story. Why? Because as they're going about the adventure and learning new things about themselves, finding out new wisdom, having to apply wisdom in real time, those are all the things that Jupiter loves. Those are all the things that Jupiter really stands for, right? And if we get over to like a keyword part, Jupiter is about expansion, abundance, generosity, wisdom, faith, opportunity, optimism, morality. And guess what? When we get into those superhero movies, when we get into those things, we're like, oh, wow. You know what I'm saying? Shefali asked a great question. So Jupiter blessings come when you follow the divine nudge. Yes, but here's the problem. Most people don't even know where to look for the divine nudge. Most people ignore their divine nudge because of one or two things. Because when you get into that luck stage, when you get into that opulence stage that everyone talks about with Jupiter, everything is like really busy. When you get into a true expansion time frame, everything's expansion, everything's going forward. Now we get addicted to this expansion as people, especially in this modern day. We get so addicted to that. Well, everything's up and up and up and up and up and up and up. And then something stops for a bit. We're like, oh, what's going on? Right. And if we're not careful to understand our Jupiter, we're not necessarily going to like really get that going. Ladybug said the never ending story movie vibes. I don't remember that movie off the top of my head, and I want to confirm, but the name itself, the never ending story, that's Jupiter. That's Jupiter, because Jupiter loves stories, and the more stories we have, the better. The more that we can share our wisdom, the better. And the more that we can activate our own brand of wisdom and our own genius and our own views and follow the nudge that spirit is trying to tell us, oh my God, suddenly we're all lucky. Suddenly we're all successful. Suddenly we have the opulence that everyone else likes to talk about. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about specifically Jupiter. And then I think I'm going to slowly get into how the returns work. So yeah, appreciate you for pulling up. Thank y'all for being here. And I think I have a few mini readings coming through later on. For anyone who does get a mini reading, just to let you know, it's not going to be tonight. I'm not reading the mini readings for tonight. They're not going to be live. The card readings are live now, just to give you all the context. But let me send you over the actual link so you can purchase a mini reading if you so choose. For anyone who's watching this afterward, it's in the description. But I do want to make sure that y'all have that right there, so you can pull through. All of them are $25 for right now, just to give a real like good point to start. You know, I know it'd be hard out here. Life be life here, you know what I'm saying? So if you want to get a reading, that's basically you buying me food, and I like food. So thanks. Not for real. I do appreciate all y'all being here. I do have to, I I don't remember the never ending story off the top of my head. I'm not gonna lie. I was born in the late 90s, bro. Like it's a different, you know, I know a lot of older stuff, but I just can't remember that off the top of my head. I don't want to like start saying stuff that I don't know just to like sound smart. Just personally. Besides the point. Let's get into some of the core facets of Jupiter again, now that we've kind of shown the whole part, and we'll break it down from there. So the archetype of Jupiter as a planet in astrology, as an energetic in astrology, which I want to point out very, very acutely. Jupiter is the teacher, the philosopher, the sage. It's the guide, right? It's a dispenser of wisdom and urges humanity to open up their horizons mentally and spiritually. How does that happen though? Oh, maybe you have to go on a little adventure. Oh, maybe you just went on a side quest in your life and you're like, this has nothing to do with what I actually want to do. Why is this happening? Come to find out, that whole saga you went on just opened up the door to the main thing that you have to do. That's Jupiter. That's why when you follow those nudges, it might seem like, why this is nothing related. And then you might meet that person along the way that gives you that next context. Follow that nudge. I'm gonna teach you more about Jupiter. This is coming from a Sag too, so I'm giving y'all the sauce. Make sure that you use this wisely. With great power, unfortunately, comes great responsibility. So the next thing that I want to point out, Jupiter amplifies anything it touches. And this is also why when some people are trying to manifest, if you're not like fully in the space of like really knowing that it's going to happen, sometimes the opulence or the push, if you try to push at Jupiter too hard without really trusting it, sometimes people manifest abundance, but it's an abundance of BS. It might be an abundance of that angst. It might be an abundance of whatever else. So be mindful about how you utilize that Jupiter portion as well. And don't lose faith if the thing doesn't happen exactly the way you think you're supposed to see it. This is about the experience. Jupiter rules the experience. Jupiter rules that chapter in your life where things happen in order for you to get to the next spot, right? So what does Jupiter rule? What signs do Jupiter rule? How does Jupiter show up in the world? Well, first of all, if you like Sagittarians, that's our home spot, right? So Jupiter rules Sagittarius. So through the fire of Sagittarius, Jupiter is inspiration, passion for like exploration, finding out new things, and most importantly, seeking truth in the mundane, which is what my channel is pretty much about. You know what I'm saying? If you look at my channel, I'm like, hey, here's what's happening in the world, and here's a lens of astrology. And it's like, oh, magic does happen in everyday things. It's like, yes, it does. Now on the other side of Jupiter, which is a spiritual planet, by the way, right? The other side of Jupiter is what we know as Pisces, right? Now, Pisces, the other side of Jupiter, yes, I know Neptune is considered a ruler of Pisces, but I think that is crock to a certain degree. The reason why I'm saying that is because Jupiter is the main ruler and Neptune does facilitate some of Pisces energy, but the main energy Pisces interacts with on a day-to-day is Jupiter, hands down. With that being said, Pisces is the emotional depth of Jupiter, right? The spiritual wisdom of Jupiter, the intuition, compassion, all of those things, right? Bro, that's Pisces face facts. But that's the in-betweens of both of those Jupiterian energies, right? Now, let me point something out. Remember how I talked to you about the story of Zeus, right? That fire and water energy, that dichotomy that ends up happening with that, part of Zeus was that warrior, and then part of Zeus was looking for intimacy and didn't know how. Like there's a back and forth between that. But what does Zeus know? Zeus just knows the spirit, or I'm sorry, that energetic of Jupiter just knows the spirit of following the hunch of all that, right? Now we can get semantics about that, but I just wanted to at least show you the concept of this. I see a couple people said some things. 1 second. So the mini readings will be sent to us through videos instead of live this time. Yes. So everyone who does get a mini reading gets a specialized, personalized video to them in their inbox by me. I have to remember to not film it in 4K. So I don't give y'all crazy files. But outside of that, yes, you will be getting that file sent directly to you for you to download, for you to watch, and it's catered to your chart. So I'll be in the chart, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to be going through everything. I think I have Billie Eilish's chart up right now. but I'll be going through. Is this not? Are you not showing the thing that I need? I am beyond myself. I just can't believe it. Here I was opening up all of this. Anyway, so now that we're here again, this even, for example, is like Billie Eilish's chart. So if I am doing your chart, to just give you a quick rundown, I'm gonna be going through, oh, look, here's your Jupiter. And you see all of these connections over to, like, let's say her Jupiter for this. I'm going to be explaining what these mean to you. And that's where you get to start to really take the Jupiter portions of what's going on. And obviously I look at the fullness of the chart and how it works, but I just wanted to at least give you that sincere context so you can know what you're getting into as you order one. So make sure you do. Now, okay. 1 second. People are asking if I need stuff. I don't know. So getting back into this. Let's actually, before we get into anything else sincere, I want to point out how Jupiter has been working in my world right now, right? So the one thing I want to do is I'm gonna actually open up the transits right this moment so we can see what this looks like, right? The mini reading is OD value. I'm not gonna lie. I appreciate you for showing the support, right? But let's open up this Lunar tab, right? Shout out, I have an affiliate link. Shout out my Jupiter for that. Oh, we out here. Okay, cool. But when we get to this whole idea, Jupiter right now is, what is happening? 1 second. Is in Gemini. So right this second, Jupiter has been in Gemini, right? Now with Jupiter and Gemini, here's what I need to point out. Have you noticed in the last bit a difference in how people are being perceived who, let's say, like, speak for a living? And what I mean by this, especially because Jupiter right now is retrograde. And when Jupiter goes retrograde, for context, if no one knows this, you can look up at the sky and see Jupiter with your naked eye. It's going to look like the brightest star. You're like, what is that? It's Jupiter, promise you. Now, here's the kicker. Jupiter in Gemini has been making people have to rethink how they communicate, having to rethink the philosophies they've been coming off of, have to change their belief system or listen to other belief systems that they haven't had. Have you been challenged in the last bit to look at somebody else's beliefs in a way where you're like, I don't really know about that, but let me see this? Jupiter and Gemini's luck, so to speak, as it's happening right now in the collective, has been really prominent as to people who, one, speak for a living. That's been a huge thing. Are you living through the truth of what you're saying, or are people BSing on what they're saying, right? The other side of Jupiter in Gemini, that's how we've been having so many quote unquote, like, I'm gonna use Diddy as the example, right? Everyone knew Diddy's parties were weird forever, but now the common rabble are finding things out. And that's a big major part of Jupiter and Gemini. The common people that are just day to day are learning higher spiritual things, higher understanding things. When we have the government telling us about UFOs and pointing out random stuff like that, we are in a very different paradigm as to how this works. But they have to tell us because people are seeing it. People are talking about it themselves. This is one of those things to think about. Just to give you a little bit of context, this has definitely been real with your natal Jupiter and Gemini. Right. And guess what? When people have Jupiter in Gemini, or when Jupiter is in Gemini in the sky, you speaking your truth and being open to other people's words, interpretations, and ideas, that's what gets you luck on a grand scale. That's what's been happening for people on a bigger scale, right? Now, on the flip side of things, some people are using, let's say, their charisma or their finesse for the wrong reasons. And that's where people are getting screwed up. I'm gonna give you a good example. The girl that did the viral Hawk Tour thing, can't stand it. But at the same time, she got viral for that. She got popping. She has one of the most listened to podcasts. Podcast was a huge theme for Jupiter and Gemini. I hate podcasts so much. I'm not going to lie. Anyway, but we get to this next part. Yes, I did work on one. That's a different story. And there's a lot. There's lore there. We'll get to that one day. But what I can say, right, when we get to the Jupiter and Gemini portion of things, she decided, oh, with my voice, with my finesse, with everyone that listens to me, the thousands, the hundreds, the thousands that listen to me because of this meme, right? I'm going to open up a cryptocurrency. And then she screwed people out of millions of dollars. And now she's being pointed out and singled out and like, hey, yo, screw you, right? This is the kind of things that ends up happening. If we talk about the dude that ended up tripping out on the CEO of the healthcare spot, right? Jupiter and Gemini retrograde, where everybody, like, I think the way, at least that I saw on the news channels and stuff, they were like, let's show him in the worst light we can. Meanwhile, guess what? The common everything person saw the class consciousness happen. And I'm not talking about you or I. I'm not talking about like your cousin who knows that you spiritual and they got a little thing. I'm talking about like average Joe people. I'm talking about people who refuse astrology. I'm talking about people who don't believe in none of this. People are starting to see the BS. And they're gaining better opulence and luck when they're able to cut through the noise and know where their truth is coming from. That's Jupiter. Okay. I'm having a good time. I hope y'all have been getting some info from this. I don't want to get too far off track. My master classes I'm locked in for. If it's a transit thing, I'm gonna start talking BS, but that's fine. Does anyone have any questions on Jupiter thus far? Have a couple things to do, and then we're gonna get into every sign, right? I think we've been making good time. It's been about 36 minutes so far. I'm going to grab a quick water to take a hot second. I'm gonna throw you on for the BRB. So make sure that if you do have anything to do during this time frame, drop down whatever question you have and make sure that you go ahead and check out those mini readings or just get a full reading at this point, because it's way more fun to talk about everything in your chart. But regardless, give me just 2 seconds and I'll be right back. Okay, lovely people of the internet, I ain't gonna lie, I didn't even move. I sat here, I was like, oh, my water's right here. And I just took a second, breathe it all in. Speaking of, where's my flame? Here we go. Oops. Okay, let's get a cool colored thing. So we're about to get into some more nitty gritty about Jupiter. Again, shout out to all y'all who are here. Yeah, let's go get it. Always feel unseen as a Pisces. We're going to be breaking down Jupiter and Pisces. Don't you worry. Don't you worry at all. And you're a Sag rising. So that means Jupiter is your chart ruler, as a matter of fact. So I just want to point this out. I mentioned earlier about how Jupiter rules both Sagittarius as well as Pisces. If Jupiter is your rising, or if you have like a Jupiter ruled rising, Jupiter is your main chart ruler. And this is the most important video that you can absolutely watch. Now, the same goes for anybody else who's watched any of my other master classes. And I have every planet covered in the traditional, aside from Saturn. But I'm working on that one for the near future. Hint, hint, wink, 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 hint. So let's get into this. Jupiter again, one more time. Now, Jupiter, I apologize. Remember how I said it was 100 times the Earth? No, I lied. It's 300 times the Earth. I want to find a photo real quick. I know this is off the cuff, but I do want to find a photo. Jupiter versus the Earth. Just to give y'all a real context as to like how different this this planet is from us. 1 second. I am doing the stupidest thing to get this set up. Anyway, screw it. I don't feel like thinking anymore. Okay. This right here, this is the difference. Now look at your man. Now back at me. Now back at your man. Now back at me. Let me stop. But this honestly is like the whole difference between like the Jupiter portion of things and why even despite Jupiter being so far away, it still has an impact on Earth. Here's my last Jupiter fact, and then we'll get into the actual nitty gritty. I know I got some Earth signs in here like, get to the point. But this is a part of the Jupiter journey too. So the more you know. But Jupiter's gravitational force is the reason why the Earth doesn't get hurled asteroids at it every single day. That's the relationship Jupiter plays with the Earth. And that's honestly why I think Jupiter is truly the planet of luck. Because isn't it so lucky that all the millions and trillions of stars and random things that get flung around at other space junk in the world, we get protected by a big old Jupiter? Thanks, Jupiter. Appreciate you. So, Jupiter takes 12 years to orbit around the sun. 12 years. Now, that means pretty much Jupiter transits when they shift through the sky. Jupiter will stay in a sign typically for a year straight, little over, little under, whatever. Depends on what's going on. But for a year, Jupiter will maintain itself in a sign, right? Now, I know I talked about Pisces and Sagittarius, but do you actually know what Jupiter's favorite sign to be in is? It's actually Cancer, because Jupiter gets to experience all the levels of what an emotion means. All levels of what an emotion means, that's what Jupiter rules. All right, it's very happy in the sign of Cancer. And nobody knows that because Jupiter just loves the feeling of emotions changing. There's phases of the mood, the emotions changing, the vibes changing from party to real intimacy, to lust, to crying, to everything. Jupiter wants all of it. Jupiter wants all the smoke. That's what Jupiter is here for. So that's, if you have Jupiter in Cancer, it's usually a very, very opulent position, but you have to follow your emotions. I'm getting ahead of myself again. How Jupiterian of me. 12 years Jupiter cycle. So the first Jupiter return that people have, right? To give you context, this is the first time Jupiter goes around your entire chart and back to the place. The first Jupiter return that you have is when you really go into adolescence. You're literally 12. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're literally 12. And that's where you start to learning more. You bring on your independence. I feel like when people are hitting their first Jupiter return, that's low key when your personality first starts sinking in, like the one that's outside of your parents, outside of this. I remember when I was 12, when I started running around stupid, but it was on some like, oh, I knew what I was doing. I knew where I was coming from. And it was the first time I remember like kind of being like, yo, like, I got to hold on to this. You know, when you're 12, when you're like 12 years old, especially when like growing up the way I was, everyone's like, no, I'm 13. I'm like 13 and a half. Like, you know, you think that you're like a little bit that. I think that's when people's Jupiters first really set in, right? That's when like, you know, I know at least in my world, that's when like when people were younger, they're like, oh, I'm grown. Like they would start talking crap back to their parents. They're like, this is what I think about this. It's a very different time, right? The other parts of this, right, is that there's a second return that happens with Jupiter. That's around 24. Now, when you're around 24, you're starting to step into your adulthood. Usually people are either finishing up college, they're really getting started on their career or looking for what path they want to aim on, or at the very least, usually by the time you're 24, you kind of know what you like and what you're looking for, right? You might not know how to get it yet, but you know what you like, what you're looking for. Typically at 24, you know the type of partner you like. You typically by 24, you know, even if it's vices, you know what your vices are, right? By 24, you usually know what's going on, right? So the asteroids hit Jupiter instead of us. That's a good question. Actually, I think Jupiter's gravitational force is so strong, it doesn't even get past Jupiter. And even if Jupiter is technically a gas giant, and so it's basically a 300 times size of the Earth, which is made of gas and containing space is so crazy. I'm gonna show y'all more space when I start hopping into the sim stuff. So I'm gonna show y'all that in later videos, just so you can really see the difference, right? So-called business said, I remember that's that preteen sassy BS. Preteen sassy BS is your first Jupiter return. Congratulations. You figured out your story. That's the difference. When that preteen happens starts, the Jupiter returns like, oh shoot, I exist in this. Oh shoot, this is my choice here. Oh, if I do this thing might be affected. That's when that first comes through. Shefali said 24 were some choices. 24 is an adventure. You're choosing stuff, right? It's actually your first house year during that time as well. You're starting to pick what's going on, right? For myself, at 24 was the year that I really took this astrology part like serious. I wasn't just a crystal shop boy who was doing the astrology videos. I was like, shoot, I gotta like really start showing up for this. I did a bunch of readings in real life, and like since like 24 was a mark at least of me being like, hey, I'm an artist and I'm gonna figure out what that looks like. 3 years later, here we are, 4-ish now. Weird thoughts because it was my birthday. Anyway, this is my idea, right? Now the third Saturn return. I'm sorry. Skipping a whole class ahead. I was thinking about mine. I ain't gonna lie. Let's get to the third return for Jupiter. And this continues on, but let's just look at these stages. The third return for Jupiter is when typically, I've at least heard, people find their success. People are usually at this point in either longer term relationships. Perhaps you have kids and you have a different relationship. Maybe there's some goals that you're finally getting. But at the end of the day, by the time you're having your third return of Jupiter, you're really starting to be like, what's my deeper purpose here? What's my deeper intention here? What mark am I leaving on the world? From what I understand, this is fair. I'm still in my 20s, right? Usually when I've talked to people who are like mid-30s, when they're like, oh, I finally kind of know what I'm doing, or I'm finally kind of settled in, or I'm finally financially in the right spot. So if you are listening to this and you're like, oh, I'm here for the abundance, I'm here for all the money today. It doesn't just happen like that all the time, unless you come through and get a reading with me, and I will help you hyper accelerate that respectfully. But let's get into a couple of examples. And I just picked up some random examples from a few people that I know are prominent and that we will probably know as I mentioned them, right? So the first and foremost, actually, I think I could pull up their charts as well as I do this. Let me check the public chart section in the Luna program, right? And then I'll show you from there. So I knew they were going to have T-Swizzle. I did not know that she was from Reading, Pennsylvania. Interesting. Such a small, strange world. Okay. Now, getting into this. Taylor Swift. If you don't know T-Swizzle, I don't know what to tell you. She's a pop star. And she makes music. People listen. If you haven't listened to her latest album, which I think was The Confessions. What was it? It's Heartbreak. It was actually it was a cool title. Matter of fact, she just hit 35. She's having her other Jupiter return. Neither here nor there. But getting to this next part of things. Oh, wait. Yeah, her chart's open. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I have it open. So she has Jupiter in Cancer. Remember when I said something about having Jupiter in Cancer and how like luck favors you? Is this not one of the richest artists in the world? The other person that has this exact Jupiter, it's Billie Eilish. Billie Eilish. One of the biggest singers in the world. She's the most streamed artist on Spotify ever. She's the most streamed artist ever. Right. Now, when did both of these things happen? During the Jupiter oppositions. I'm sorry, the Jupiter returns. I take that back. I apologize. During the Jupiter returns, they saw the return on their investment. Now, what do I want to... Tortured Poets Department. Thank you. I knew it was a dope name. But during her second Jupiter return, she went from her country music vibe. This is important, right? Because Taylor Swift started off as a country artist. Her story was through country. Her telling of her tale of her coming of age was through the country songs. And you know what I'm saying? Now, the other side to this is that when she hit her Jupiter return, guess what she put out? 1982. Now, if I said 1982 when you felt something, that's because that was her Jupiter return album. And it reflected the energy of her trying to expand and also her taking new risks that she never did before within her career and also within her life, right? Now, another person for a Jupiter return, an earlier Jupiter return for someone who's more prominent that we can name. If you think about Timothée Chalamet, right? I didn't know this before. I was doing some research on some Taylor Swift is also a Sag. Yes, I've only talked about Sag so far this season. I'm biased. I'm a Sag, you know what I'm saying? Got to give love to my Sag girlies in the world. That I know that they be doing their hustle. They be tripping though. Love y'all. Anyway, Timothy Chalamet is, or when he was 12, he began his acting journey. I didn't see the earliest of Timothy Chalamet, but I didn't realize that he was actually in the movie Interstellar, which is a phenomenal movie, heart-jerking movie. Oh, it's so crazy. But Interstellar, I remember seeing him when he was like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's the interesting part to things. Now that's a Jupiter return. So usually when Jupiter returns, it's like, when I was giving my example, that was when I was like, oh, I am in the creative world. Actually, take that back. When it was that was when I officially moved to LA for real. You know what I'm saying? Jupiter return, moved to LA for real. Boom. Always wanted to do it. I always wanted to be amongst creative stuff, do this, and this is what I do. Cool, dope. And now how did that show up to you in your life? What happened around 12 that might have shown that Jupiter return? When we start to find a better relationship to that, we get new information. There's a reason why I haven't dug into the science yet for this, but I do want to explain this a bit more. And thank y'all for rocking with me in this process. When we hit an hour, I'm going to definitely hit to the actual science and stuff. But the next thing that I want to talk about, the return is every 12 years. Yes, and Jupiter's opposition is every 6 years, right? Now, when a Jupiter opposition happens, this is a perfect segue, actually. This is a moment of like reckoning. You know what I'm saying? When the Jupiter opposition happens, you're like, oh, shoot. It's like a new beginning. How are you handling the world that you've built? That comes in. And so when Jupiter opposition happens, that's where there's a little bit more of an adjustment time frame. There's a little bit more of a change that ends up coming through, right? I knew I wasn't crazy. My ex-best friend was a Sag. She was amazing, but she was tripping. A Sag woman be tripping. Sag men be tripping. Sages are the fire, the fire of the zodiac, in my personal opinion. Truly, the lightning bolt, if you will. I was bugging out until I was like, let me not bug out. You know what I'm saying? It was always on the moral high ground of like, hey, things are still okay. But like at the end of the day, every Sag is still a party animal. Every Jupiterian has like that silliness, that whimsical, that let's be larger than life today that they can tap into. The more you know. But let's get back to the opposition, right? So in a Jupiter opposition, this is around what age? Oh, guess what? 18. Jupiter opposition. Oh, I'm 18 years old. I'm grown. I remember that. That was fun. Was I grown yet? Still yes, but you know, another point. But I can say though, it's like 18 is a significant year. We talk about all the time. You know what I'm saying? 18, when you start to pull in, and I'm going to use two different people as a representation in terms of celebrity. That's going to be Zendaya, and I'm going to use Billie Eilish one more time just to wrap that idea together as well. Now, when, let's say, this Jupiter opposition occurs, the return's about beginnings. The opposition is what are we supposed to change? So Jupiter return at 12. I know who I'm about to become. I'm a teenager, right? 6 years later, you're not going to be into the same exact things. You might be into some similar stuff, but it's not going to be the same exact thing. So you reform it, and then you pop back up and you go to school for the first, or you go to college for the first time, or you enter the workforce for the first time. People are like, oh, who are you? What are you into? And you're like, oh, you know, I used to be about that, but like, you know, I'm a new and improved. This is a different rendition of things. So it's like, what have you built so far? And now what's changed? What are you taking with you? Right. And then the next time after this, or this 18 time frame, 18, 19, depending on how that ended up happening for you, you know, it's just ironic that the Jupiter parts of things in terms of that coming of age story is like 12. I think I want to be grown. 18. I am grown. Then you hit 24. You're like, I don't really want to be grown. This is a lot. But at the same time, that's a new rendition. You know what I'm saying? I personally don't believe most people's lives really start to like 24. I'm gonna keep it a stack. Now get into the next portion of things, right? Billie Eilish, like I said, hit their Jupiter opposition. And that's when she became the first artist to have that Grammy sweep that she did. You know what I'm saying? The Grammy sweep was wild. And you had to get a lot of rapid changes. I keep mentioning Billie Eilish specifically because I watched an interview with her earlier, or part of an interview with her earlier. I'm gonna sit here and lie. But I'm going to just show you over a quick still of it so y'all can at least see what I'm talking about. Go give it a watch if you want. I love her music. She and I have we have some similarities in our chart, I should say, that check out pretty well. So I relate to her music often. Should be it. Yes. Hold on. You're hearing the audio? No, you're not. That's good. I'm glad I had that set up properly, I think. Okay, clicking the wrong things. Let's get it. So this is the interview that I was talking about. I'm only going to show you a couple seconds just so you can really see this. But the whole idea of it was it's the same interview for the 8th year. So they've been doing the same exact interview to show her, and even in her like growing up. So you can literally watch. This is why I want to point this out. You can watch when she had her Jupiter opposition to like where she's at now, about to have her next Jupiter return, and you're going to see so much of a difference. And that's why I wanted to kind of point that out. As someone who's successful, we're getting to see that change happen. Agreed. Yeah, you're more of an adult at 24. Yeah, I don't think I was conscious of anything in like real life until I was like 24, and I was like, oh my god. maybe that's different for other people. But me personally, that's the way I at least saw it in that regard, right? Or at least noticed that major difference. So I think I got all the questions so far. And the other person I was talking about was Zendaya, right? And Zendaya at this point, when she was 18, 19, she was always in Disney. She was always doing like the work. She did different movies and stuff like that, right? But when she got her role as MJ in the Spider-Man stuff, when Marvel was at its height, when Tom Holland joined, you know what I'm saying? I'm a dork. I love this stuff, right? But that's when Zendaya came through. And not only was she like just in the Marvel movie, she was playing a traditionally character who's just white. And so she had to knock out the thing out the park. There were some challenges. She had to change over from being some Disney star to being seen as an adult, being seen as not just a person that you were watching on that show. You know what I'm saying? I didn't watch I was a few years where I didn't see Zendaya's like Disney run for real, but that's what ended up pulling through with that. So that's just a quick example of returns and oppositions. And this happens and scales out for every 6 years, 12 years, whatever. So look at people in your age bracket. These are people that are around my age bracket in terms of the year. So I want to kind of speak to this, especially because, a lot of my stuff is legacy for Gen Z, to keep it a stack. So like that's going to be something for you to check out. But yeah, that's the whole idea. I'm about to trail off. I feel like I'm about to just start yapping. So I'm going to slowly get a little closer to what it means in your birth chart, right? Now, does anyone have any last questions before I dig in to the last leg of what this masterclass is? And before we end up doing that, just to let you know, again, you want that full example breakdown of Jupiter in your chart. This is the time to do so. I appreciate each and every one of y'all who do actually really take up the time to like go through these mini readings. The way that I work is freelance, so we don't always like get things at the right time or nothing like that. And it's still a blessing regardless. But these really kind of help me out in my personal world. And I'm so grateful to just be in a position to like, just give to y'all all this info. And I enjoy it. And I just want to look at everyone's chart to be like on my deep down core. If I could just like, I am very tempered about it. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm very tempered about it. I try to stay as like about it. I don't ask for people for their charts in real life, but if I could just look at everyone's chart all the time, oh my God. It'd be so fun. Do that. And then the occasional, whatever, you know what I'm saying? That'd be great. Will the link be available after class? Yes, it will. It's going to be up for the next week. It's going to be gone before 2025 because I'm preparing the next masterclass. So there will be a different one for that. But for the next upcoming week, there will be up for. So before Christmas, if you want to check out the Jupiter masterclass one, buy it before Christmas. That's my biggest thing. So yeah, no, I appreciate y'all who do love sticking with me live. I have been really starting to let myself understand that I am really built for the streamer part. Maybe it's because the top streamers in the world are Sagittarians, you know what I'm saying? Like that's so like I gotta represent. I gotta represent. If Kai's not doing all he can for the people, I can't wait to be in a similar position. But for the people who do this spiritual work and like really tap in with all that, you know what I'm saying? So shout out Kai. At some point you want to read him, bro, you hit me up, I'll pop up. That's some real Jupiter masterclass, you know what I'm saying? It's a beautiful time. So also you need to tell me your hairstylist. I want them. Okay, next part. Get into the last bit of this. Sag gang, let's get it. I'm tired. I'm tired of talking about the other stuff. Let's get to the real portion of this, which is all about how Jupiter interacts in all the signs. I always write more notes than I need. So, Jupiter through the zodiac. Jupiter is home in Sag. Jupiter is Pisces man, homie. And Jupiter loves Cancer, right? That's one of those things to kind of look at. So if you have those energies, just know Jupiter kind of likes you. Someone didn't realize that my only pronouns that I put on IG are just him, and I think that's funny. I did it as a joke, but it's been a running joke for so long. So shout out to those of y'all in the world. I'm being distracted. This ADHD thing is so real. But let's get to the next part again. Jupiter signs lock back in. If any Earth sign wants to yell at me if I trail off, please do. I'm feeling it right now. I'm post my retrograde. I'm doing the best I can. So let's dig into, before I said it, gratitude. Gratitude. I know I said that a lot. There's a reason why I really take time to thank you all on everything that I do. And it's not just on some like I want it to be some type of thing. It's genuinely because one, I love the ever-loving snot out of y'all. But the other side of it is because like gratitude puts people going forward in motion. One thing I've noticed across the board of every person who lives to like 100 years old, for the most part, they live the life of gratitude, or they're very grateful for like all the things. Like there's a different type of like, right? You feel like last week was heavy, right? And I'm grateful that this week isn't heavy. Now I'm giving you this context because like Jupiter does really push forward this sense of losing my trail. Jupiter makes it so when you're really appreciative of what it is that you do have, things start to grow because you're honoring what that is. And the more that you honor things, the more that you have gratitude towards things, when you honor the people that you care about in your life, that's when things become more royal. That's when things become more grandiose. So sometimes the real side of the manifestation of your Jupiter has so much more to do with like what you're grateful for than it does to anything that you can gain. That's the most sauce I'm gonna give y'all. That's it. That's it. Okay, now we'll get to other stuff. Someone asked if Jupiter retrograde and how that plays out in your chart. Let's get into it. So how Jupiter plays in your chart is where you find your luck. Now here's the difference between if you have Jupiter retrograde in your chart and if you have Jupiter regular in your chart. So keep this in mind before I explain everything else. If you have Jupiter retrograde in your chart, you don't have to look for your luck. You don't have to look for your luck. You don't have to look for your next saga. You don't have to look for your next story. You don't have to look for your next adventure. You don't have to look for none of that. It's going to come to you. It's going to happen to you. Oh, you didn't want that promotion at work? Well, guess what? They think you're the only one who could do it. So what you're going to do, you're not going to take the promotion? That's Jupiter retrograde. Jupiter retrograde, I think one of the biggest disservices that can happen for someone who's Jupiter retrograde is to like try too hard And I know that sounds really weird, but like when Jupiter retrograde, people try too hard in certain areas, it will always, it goes haywire. But when Jupiter appreciates the experience of wherever it's happening for them, if you have it retrograde, that's when the world starts to change for you. So with Jupiter retrograde, you don't have to look for your luck. It comes to you. And when you push it too hard, it starts to erupt. But when you leave it alone and you just are like, oh, I'm blessed, I have a blessed life, things are this, I'm grateful for this, you the way that like things come to you is very different. Like Jupiter retrograde feels like, hey, I didn't try it. I didn't even want this lottery ticket, but someone handed it to me on the street and I scratched it off and I won money. But if you're at the scratcher every day in the gas station at someone with Jupiter retrograde and you're like, I need to get, you'll never get it. You won't. You know what I'm saying? It's just straight up. So that's kind of the way that works. So when I talk about these energies, keep that part in mind, because that'll be the way that also gets to show out. So let's go through all of the signs. I'm going to go by element. We're going to go in order of element and as they appear so we can get into the grand part of Jupiter, and then we'll explain from there. Make sure to chart. Matter of fact, everyone drop your Jupiter sign right now. Drop what Jupiter sign you got. Drop what house it's in. All that good stuff. I'm not going to go through Jupiter in a house. It's super crazy, but I do want to at least go through how it works in this. If you want to know more about the houses, check out my astrology 101 masterclass and just skip over to the part where I talk about how the houses work, and then you'll understand how the Jupiter thing lines up to that as well. So Jupiter in the signs, let's get it. So if you have Jupiter in a fire sign, which is Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius, your growth and your abundance is coming through your passion, your courage, and your leadership. If you are an Earth Jupiter, your growth and your abundance comes through your ability to be practical, be stable about how you're doing things, and the hard work that comes from it. And I hate saying hard work like that, but it's true. Jupiter in air. If you have Jupiter in Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius, your growth is through your relationships to people, the innovation you have, and how you speak to other people on a day-to-day basis. That's where your Jupiter is going to show up for you. Now, if you have Jupiter in water, so it's in either Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces, your luck comes to you through means of your intuition, your spiritual connections, and also how you choose to love the people in your world. That's how that ends up kind of going through. So now that I've at least briefly given you a little bit of foreplay when it comes to your Jupiter sign, right? Let's get into the rest of this. Now, if you have a fire Jupiter, again, Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius, you're going to burn bright. When you choose to be bold and do what feels bold without hesitation, you're going to be off for the better. As a matter of fact, if you have Jupiter and fire and people call you impulsive, but it works, keep being impulsive. Like, I want to tell you that because like Jupiter and fire has so much to do with like the bigger expansion of things, right? When you heard Kendrick Lamar scream the word mustard the way that you've never heard, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, who made him that mad? That's the extra that Jupiter and fire sometimes exudes, right? If it wasn't for that Jupiter and fire type of energy, we wouldn't care if someone was on stage. We wouldn't care about a celebrity. There are people that care so much. You wouldn't even be watching this if it wasn't about this thing, right? Part of why y'all watch is because you're like, oh, this dude really loves astrology for real. It's like, yeah, for sure. But like, this is the idea where it's like the fire of this is about embracing your courage, but you need to also be patient, because when you have Jupiter and fire, one of your biggest strengths and also your Achilles heel is that you have so much insight into the future. Like your instincts as a Jupiter and fire, you know what the next trend is going to be. You know what the next hot thing is going to be. You know what the next vibe people are going to move to is. And you know how to kind of step into it first, right? Think about just people who have been influencers, people who have been impactful. I'm thinking about like people like King Batch. I'm thinking about people who like who like was one of the main people that pushed Vine forward. If you know what Vine is, you TikTok generation, you don't play. I'm a part of y'all too, but yeah, that's fine. But I can say is that the pitfall is that when you get too much in overconfidence versus like knowing how to interact with your foresight, you can get a little bit screwy with that, right? Now, how does this work for each different sign? Let me just explain what this goes with. Jupiter and Aries, you need to really sit there and like your instincts are, I don't want to say your instincts are your God because that gets a little bit weird, but it's also like, come on, you get what I'm trying to say. Because like when it gets to that like Jupiter and Aries, there's this part, as a matter of fact, in the latest Spider-Man movie, and they're talking about how like he shoots his webs, and they're like, yo, how do you do that? He's like, I don't know, just do it. And they're like, it just happens, it just comes from you. He's like, yeah, it just happens. They're like, what do you do? Do you think about it? He's like, nah, it's kind of like, I don't know, like breathing. Like I just kind of like do it, and that's just how it happens. And they're like, well, I have to do this one way, and I have to do it this one way. That's Jupiter and Aries talking to Leo and Sag about how it just does it, because Jupiter and Aries is just supposed to like trust in the motion, trust in the instinct. That's where things end up really working for the best, right? Now, second thing, Jupiter and Leo. Jupiter and Leo, you're going to get praise, but you have to get on stage. Like one of the things about Jupiter and Leo is that there's this like, oh no, like let somebody else get in front. Like let somebody else show up and do this thing. Jupiter and Leo, do you not see this man? Look at this man. He is flexing. He is ready to smite. Jupiter and Leo, he said, I'm taking the show. Like straight up. Like that's Jupiter. And you just call me a hotel. That's disrespectful. Don't play. I'll play. I know I'm about all the people. I know my history. I rock with all of it. You're not incorrect, but you're not. I'm the Maverick. That's all I gotta say. Appreciate it though. But what I can say though, is that the next part to this with Leo, again, you got to step into your power, step into your prowess. I was talking about Jupiter and Leo, and I just had a aside. Think about it like that. Like I just had an aside, talked to someone, y'all were still entertained, came back into the whole situation. I just did what Jupiter and Leo does right now. But Jupiter and Leo, that's your gift. Like Jupiter and Leo is like, hey, I came here with my significant other, but I'm going to charm the entire party. And then after they charm the entire party, their significant other feels like they didn't even miss a beat, because by the time they get back to them, they're like, hello, I got this for you. Did you know? Did you know I got this for you? I bet you weren't ready for that. Wow. And they're like, what? You were just doing this entire party. You were just turning up this whole time. And the next thing you know, like that's the finesse that comes in. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the finesse. And that roast was for you, whoever you are. Please leave a like and buy a mini reading. Thank you. Keeps me going. But the jokes even in between, Jupiter and Leo. Jupiter and Leo, you're supposed to entertain. Like if Jupiter and Leo, they ask you to host, you know what I'm saying? Oh, my fault. I call mini T in my head. My bad. I thought you were talking about me. I was like, man, that's crazy. I just tried to like not do that, because I am very much like Egypt invented astrology. This is what it looks like. I'm very much that guy. Oh, so that's why I was like, I got a little self-conscious there. I ain't gonna lie. That's on me. That has nothing to do with you or the name. I was like, dude, is that what they think, man? Neither here nor there. Let's get to Jupiter and Sag though, right? All jokes aside, all sides aside, you know, I like to tap in with the community, right? But Jupiter and Sagittarius, right? Jupiter and Sag is one of those situations to where Jupiter and Sag is the adventurer, right? When a lot of people talk about the whole like catch flights, not feelings, or like the whole like, hey, the Sagittarians love to explore. Yes, Sag like to explore, but Jupiter and Sag, you need to. Like Jupiter and Sag, you might not find success unless you leave your hometown, like straight up. Like you might not find like a lick of success until you literally take a leap into the big picture, until you actually take a step into like the larger world, until you do something that like kind of makes you nervous and you have to get brave about it. Like Jupiter and Sag, Jupiter wants you to have a lot of stories. You know what I'm saying? Jupiter wants you to have a lot of wisdom from these stories. It's not just a story for no reason. right? But it's a story in order for you to really like help inspire others tap into that. So Jupiter and Sag, when you start leaning into that, that's when the luck of Jupiter starts to come back to you tenfold and beyond. You know what I'm saying? Now, that's the vibe when it comes to that Jupiter and Sag part. Like, let yourself explore, let yourself find out new things, let yourself like be vulnerable too. You know what I'm saying? I do my best to practice it real time, you know? So now I appreciate y'all for being patient with me as well. In this process, I do take this journey seriously as I can. And like, especially if I'm going to be given information as guru or as a Jupiter type figure, I want to also make sure that I keep myself in that same line and vein of things. And even that philosophy I'm explaining right now is a very Jupiter and Sagittarius philosophy. I'm not trying to change my tone, but I noticed my tone changed because it's a very different, like, it's a very different vibration. It's for the love of knowledge, for the love of learning, it's for the love of teaching. Like anything that you can like learn enough for you to teach, Jupiter and Sag, that's going to be really different. Like teachers typically don't make a lot of like money off rip. Professors don't make a lot unless you're at like a really high level. But Jupiter and Sag, they will really appreciate your insight and information different than everybody else. So if you have Jupiter and Sag, don't be afraid to speak your mind on those kind of things in that process, right? I really be trying to work with my natal chart and not against it. Pull through to the mini reading, worst thing. That's what I'm saying. That's what I have those for. Genuinely speaking, that's why I have mini readings. That's how I'm like, there's sometimes it's like that one little piece, and if like I can do anything to help you out to move that forward, I'll be hype, you know what I'm saying? But hopefully even me breaking all this down is a work in this, because like my job is to teach you how to work with your natal chart. You know what I'm saying? Jupiter and Sag sounds like a fire placement. Is the fire placement. Yes, absolutely. But I appreciate each and every one of y'all regardless. Thank y'all for pulling through. I do my best to give y'all as much knowledge with this. And Jupiter and Sag is about just like giving the knowledge to give the knowledge to. I'm not Jupiter and Sag, but that's just the example of how Jupiter and Sag works, right? Yeah. So it is Sag season. So I think that was just rolling through. So hopefully that really stuck through for y'all, right? Now for the next part that I want to get to. We're going to talk about Jupiter and the earth signs. So Jupiter and the earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn. Here's the thing. I hate the slow and steady wins the race motif, but it is unfortunately so true. Like Jupiter and earth, you have to like, the more obsessed you are with like structure, workflow, and blueprinting the things out, the better off you're going to be. Like I don't know how to explain this. I have Jupiter and earth, so I'm going to be just so transparent with y'all because I don't feel like being extra. Literally when it comes to like Jupiter and earth, like you have to like, I'm going to give you an example as Jupiter and earth, where I took it upon myself in the last year to really go in on YouTube. Within the last 6 months specifically is when I really was like, let me like really put this in, right? But one of the biggest parts to me, I was just like, yo, if I could literally post a year's worth of the new moon to full moon thing, I know I'm a good astrologer, and I could do it again as many times as I want to. And like I proved myself that thing, and it took a year for me to like really have that set in. And afterward, I'm like, oh yeah, let me go back live again. Right. I took the year, I thought about it, I did this and the third. Jupiter and earth is like, take your time. Like don't think of things in like days. Don't think of things in weeks. Don't think of things in months. Think of things of quarters. You got to think of things like quarters. You have to think of things like 2 years in advance. You got to think 5 years down. That's, as a Jupiter and earth, is going to save you so much trouble. I'm about to start going in for the rest of this video. I was waiting for the signs, but I wanted to give you, needed to warm up a bit. You've been doing conscious body scans, Jupiter and earth, the other side note, and I appreciate you for bringing this up, Queen Bee, because your earth, Jupiter, the system and the way that you interact with your body is going to tell you if you can be opulent or not. And if you're not really in tune with your body, you're not going to gain the opulence. So for Jupiter and earth people, one of the biggest challenges might be like working out or being consistent or working out or something like that. If you can conquer that, a lot of things in your world are going to change up. You get what I'm saying? Now, I'm going to go in a little bit more. Someone said, go in, facts. Appreciate you. But the other thing with Jupiter and earth is that it's about like finding stability and finding steady progress. And again, this is why steady progress. When I have even moments on this channel where I'm like, hey, a few years back this happened, and hey, this, that, and the third. Like, if y'all notice me say stuff like that, that's a very Jupiter Earth thing. Because like, if you told me right now without me knowing the background, like, oh, that person, he's a great astrologer, I'll be like, whatever, he doesn't seem like it, what are you talking about? But meanwhile, I'll be like, oh shoot, this person's been doing this for 6 years. I'm coming up on my 6 years of YouTube this upcoming January. But then it's like, oh, because I've done this for 6 years, I know I can do this. That's Jupiter and Earth. So please, 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 Jupiter and Earth, no matter what sign you're in, make sure that you let yourself take your time. Like, you are about building the skills. Back in the day when an artist needed to be an artist, they had to go through like rigorous training. You had to go through like being an A&R, talking to A&Rs and going to meetings and doing the whole nine. That's really what the big change is coming through with that Jupiter Earth portion. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully that gives you some context of what I'm trying to get at. But let's get through. This is the one thing. This is the pitfall though with Jupiter and Earth. If you're focused too much on emotional success, you stifle your emotions. And the worst thing you could do is stifle your emotions while you're being on your path. And so Jupiter and Earth, you're going to have the tendency to try to be like, how I feel doesn't matter. But that's not true. How you feel does matter, because how you feel matters to how long the longevity of what you do goes, right? Yes, I don't do well in survival mode. Jupiter and Earth, your battle is survival mode and getting out of survival mode, right? I've watched stuff, or I saw something recently. The Rock, one of the richest actors, at the very least, right? One of the richest actors who has ever done the thing had to learn how to have fun again. And he was nervous because he was like, yo, what if I can't, like, what if like everything just goes? That's a very big fear for Jupiter and Earth. And that's why it's really important to take things by that day at a time. You get what I'm saying? So like, it's a big battle. And guess what? That battle takes time. That's the idea of Jupiter and Earth. Like, keep yourself going so you can keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? And that's going to help. So hopefully that gives you some context. I see a lot of my Jupiter and Earth people be like, I only know survival mode. How do I get to thriving? You get to thriving when you know that what you have already is enough. And if it hasn't been enough so far, how are you still maintaining? I'm not saying that you don't need to want more or that you don't deserve more that's coming up. But with that mindset, things start to change low key. I'm just trying to give y'all as much sauce as I can about this. Now, the next portion of this, right? If you have, let's say, Jupiter and Taurus, where Jupiter and Taurus, you are like old money in a new situation. Best way for me to put it, right? It's like, I'm going to put this, it's like Jupiter and Taurus is like, you have to, where I was like, hey, 5 years, a few years, whatever. Jupiter and Taurus, you might have like been the one person to like drop money in when crypto first dropped. This is how I want to refer this to Jupiter and Taurus. And you might be like, yo, in 15 years from now, I'm gonna be a billionaire off of this. You know what I'm saying? Jupiter and Taurus, like I always just picture, when I think of Jupiter and Taurus, I'm picturing someone who just like sitting in like the comfiest chair imaginable. Like, this is my show. I watch my show all the time. And they're like, why? He's like, this is my comfort show. Leave me alone. This is my comfort food and my comfort show. And like, everybody leave me alone. It's coming through. And they're like, hey man, you're lazy. You're like, I'm not lazy. I know how long things take. And I'm just going to sit here and enjoy my time in the process. Jupiter and Taurus, please lean into that. Like, please lean into that. Jupiter and Taurus, literally rest and relaxation is a part of how you get back to being opulent. And if you don't have like a bougie food, like, I'm not saying this as a financial advice, that's a dumb financial advice I'm about to say, but it's like, if you know that you have the means to do the thing that's a little bit fancier, sometimes you just got to do that, you know, like, and one thing to talk about for all Earth Jupiter signs is that like, you have to invest in yourself. It's going to feel so painful to do it though. I'm gonna be so honest. Jupiter Earth, investing in yourself is so painful. I don't know why. It was just like, oh my God. Right? Because Tony Stark made this in a cave. So it's like, well, I can make it in a cave too. No, Jupiter, Earth, make sure that you have the stuff that you need. Invest back into yourself, because when you invest in yourself, things work out. It's weird. It's annoying, but this is how that goes. So that's Jupiter and Taurus a bit. You have to kind of sit into the prowess of that. And the main thing about Jupiter and Taurus is that you need to make sure that you have a really good relationship to your five senses. There's a very intimate relationship between you and your five senses, and you being able to utilize your intuition through that is going to actually give you everything you need. I'm giving y'all so much sauce right now. I'm dropping mad gems in this whole video. I'm not gonna lie. And there's certain things I'm not gonna hit till later on. It's a sad season, you know what I'm saying? It's my season. I wanted to make sure y'all knew what was going on for real. All right, my fault. I was feeling myself. Now, let's get to Jupiter and Virgo. I'm feeling the spirit of it, honestly. This is the Jupiterian vibe. This is my, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, Jupiter and Virgo. Where Jupiter and Virgo, y'all are the self-care gurus. Now, here's the problem, Jupiter and Virgo. Y'all know how to fix everybody else. But what you've been up to. Now, listen, Jupiter and Virgo, you literally know how to like heal people's ailments. Like, you know how to do that. And you'll be like, oh shoot, like if you take this and do this and spin this way and this way, like all your problems will be gone. And then they'll be like, why don't you do it? You're like, nah, that's for everybody else. And it's like, yo, like you have the sauce, you have the information, use it for you. And it's like, no, this is just stuff for me to know. And it's like, yo, and I'm joking around with y'all. I like to poke at my Virgoian placements. But the reason why I'm just saying it like in this capacity for real, is because Jupiter and Virgo is like, y'all have the gift of being able to see that one thing everyone else is about to miss. You know what I'm saying? Like you're grabbing the food and you're like, oh, wait, that person has a gluten thing. They can't have any of this. And like, you're going to be the one person that sees it that saves everybody else from a world that I don't know what. Keep it stacked. Jupiter and Virgo, you're really able to like do that. I think Jupiter and Virgo has a really good knack for like finding the depths of like emotion for people. I think they're really good at like seeing the in-betweens of data, you know, but I think what Jupiter and Virgo struggles with also is that they get so inside of the minutia. Fancy words. Holla at your boy. The minutia things that it's like really difficult to pull back from, right? It's a certain amount of it's a certain amount of like pullback that I feel like Jupiter and Virgo needs to have in order for them to do that. As a matter of fact, sometimes Jupiter and Virgo, it's hard for you to be spiritual because you're like, yo, there's so many different facts and figures. I don't know what's actually real. And part of that challenge for you, Jupiter and Virgo, just in order for you to really gain the prowess of that, is that you have to like let yourself not know things and just embrace that you're learning. And that sucks. Like Jupiter and Virgo doesn't, they're like, what do you mean I'm a student? Right. But when Jupiter and Virgo, when you really adopt that forever student mindset, that world opens up to you and you get less into the minute and you start to like really recognize the spiritual portion of things a lot more. But you're always going to be into some type of healing arts, whether that be like meditation and yoga, or like you need to change the salt that you use. It's like, what? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's that, you know? Okay. To the next part of this, right? The tired is starting to win. But I will push through. Oh, you all know what? The tired is starting to win because I'm about to start about Jupiter and Capricorn. Tired, bro. Well, so Jupiter and Capricorn. Oh, Jupiter and Capricorn. Jupiter and Capricorn, y'all are technically at fall, quote unquote, when it comes to this, right? Jupiter and Capricorn, you gonna have to like struggle up. Be honest. You're gonna have to struggle up. But everything that you build on the way as a Jupiter and Capricorn, you can't go back retroactively and get worse. That's like one of the biggest parts to like Jupiter and Capricorn that's really dope, is that it's like, if you really put the work in and build yourself to that, your ability to get back to that or to like surpass that is so dramatically different. Now, Jupiter and Capricorn, you're going to be obsessed with like how you try to like present self. And there's a really strong part to like Jupiter and Capricorn that's like, I need to be very official. People need to know that I'm important. When I say things, I need for people to listen to me. Therefore, do I change everything that I say in order for people to hear me from a different wavelength? Like Jupiter and Capricorn, like you're going to have a back and forth between like just existing and being great as you are and like, well, aren't people supposed to hear me at my best? I haven't been using my register. I wasn't sitting up straight. Why don't people know more about the things that I'm saying? There's this like really interesting portion because you're going to feel like you need to like step up to that. But the weird part about Jupiter and Capricorn is that like, that's why you had to look at yourself in years. That's why you had to look at yourself in that. Because if you look at like where you first started, where you thought you were good to where you are now, where you're actually good, it's a very different thing. You know what I'm saying? It's a very different vibe. Facts don't care about your feelings, says as someone with lots of Virgos placements. That's so accurate. I love that as a concept. Shout out your username for real. That's great. Okay, but the other side to this though, Jupiter and Capricorn, you're going to find success, but it's typically like later on. Now, the one part that's interesting is that people, when you have Jupiter and Capricorn, are going to be like, yo, you're so great at this, or you're so this. Like the people really understand Jupiter and Capricorn has like a certain amount of talent, or they're able to like execute on things that's a little bit different, right? One thing with Jupiter and Capricorn, if you really do put your mind to something and you see the benefit of growth, you're going to go through about it. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of the big parts about Jupiter and Capricorn. And the big thing too is that when Jupiter and Capricorn, I've noticed this. Jupiter and Capricorn, this is just something I've noticed, to be honest. With Jupiter and Capricorn, when things start falling apart, people are going to be like, you, like for some reason, everyone just knows that Jupiter and Capricorn is like the person to like look at where it's like, oh, things aren't working right. Hey, you over there. And it's like, huh? Like you seem like you know something. It's like, I do. And it's like, can you fix this? And it's like, oh, technically I can. And they'll be like, we elect you to fix this. And you're like, what just happened? Like if you have Jupiter and Capricorn, please let me know in the comments if you have experienced something like this. But the reason why this is important is because like Jupiter and Capricorn, sometimes you might karmically show up at like a perfect time because things were like not working out a certain way, or things like it's a weird thing that happens with Jupiter and Capricorn where it's like, hey, I started working here. This place kind of everything just didn't work. Oh, I started working. Oh, this place is kind of nice. Did I just get promoted to the top in the first 3 months? Okay, that's cool, I guess. Yeah, and I'll have to maintain. But here's the thing on my one take about Jupiter and Capricorn. Your greatness isn't what you exude, it's what you believe in. It's what you actually like stand for, that people will rock with you about with Jupiter and Capricorn. It's not about the other stuff. For you, it's about the other stuff. And I had the calls coming from inside the house. But like genuinely speaking, it's one of those situations where as Jupiter and Capricorn, give yourself the patience, look back at your work, be proud. If you can't watch yourself from something old because it's a little bit cringe, just know that you thought that was the dopest thing you could do at that time. And when you start to see that in that type of vein, things change. Yeah, that's my take for Jupiter and Cap. Hope that helps somebody. Okay, let's get on over to my airheads. Shout out to the air signs. As a matter of fact, I do want to take a quick break just to kind of hit the water. Please let me know how you're feeling so far about this. This might go on for 2 hours, I'm gonna be honest. But this is the masterclass from me to the people. You know, we're feeling sad season. It's my first masterclass in my new year of birth. So if you wanted to wish me happy birthday or happy belated, you know what I'm saying? Man, I should follow you. Shout out Shafali. Okay, about the moderators are it's a beautiful world. Okay, I'll be back in a hot second. Okay, y'all. It's Jupiter. I've been enjoying this Jupiter Masterclass. Thank y'all for having me. I've been trying to lean into my own Jupiter devices during this time frame. What I'm saying? I do my best to lean into the vibe that I'm about to talk about. So thank you. What I'm saying? Appreciate y'all. Happy birthday months, birthday season. What I'm saying? I don't do months. That's weird. No, I'm playing. Either way, appreciate the love for real, for real. Okay. Let's get into the air signs, water signs, and then I have a last word thing that I made for every sign. A little last real insight for you to go with. So for those of y'all who just were here for your sign, you're missing out. You're missing out. That's what you're doing. All right. All jokes aside, clownery to the side. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about the air signs. Actually, just kidding. All clownery attached. Let's talk about Jupiter and air, right? Now, the air signs of Jupiter are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, aka Aquarius. I'll just be, the air signs are known for their ideas, their communication, and their innovation, right? And sharing knowledge. That's really important. Sharing knowledge and sharing takes that they've heard. Like one thing that I really noticed about Jupiter and air, they're not so like of their own stuff that they're like not willing to see the outside or how other people feel about things, right? One thing that I really wanted to kind of like point out with this energetic in general is that they want to be around people who have a diverse understanding. Like Jupiter and air people love cities or the idea of cities. Maybe you don't like the city for, but you love the idea of cities. I'm like, oh, it's hustling and bustling and things are moving and things are this and this is grand. And I just saw lights and what's this thing? And oh my gosh, this is like, that's very much the Jupiter and air type of vibration and how like y'all like to lean into it, so to speak, right? Now, the other side to this is that with Jupiter and air, y'all are stupidly logical. And I say stupidly logical because sometimes y'all are so logical, you can't get out of your own like idea of what you had. For Gemini, that's going to be an idea that you heard from somebody else. For Libra, you're going to be really hard-headed on like how to get out of the relationship realm of what you think it's supposed to be. And for Aquarius, it's going to be like a weird rendition of not knowing how to necessarily like show up all the time to shine when you need to. So I want to explain each one of these in order for y'all to like really know how to navigate your Jupiter with the air portion as well. Because like the avoidance of that emotional part of things with Jupiter and Gemini and Libra and Aquarius doesn't lead to you doing as well. And the reason why I want to point this out is because Jupiter at its height in Cancer is because Jupiter loves to feel and experience all the things and see the people and know what's going on, right? So that's the type of thing that I want to kind of bring up before that. Let's tap in though. So if you have Jupiter and Gemini, guess what? Jupiter and Gemini is going on right now. If it wasn't for Jupiter and Gemini, there might not be a way that I was standing up here yapping for 2 hours straight. Jupiter and Gemini is the prime example of like ideas being spread. There's people trying to call me right now. You know what I'm saying? Jupiter and Gemini is people like the phone buzzing. You know what I'm saying? Phone buzzing, talking all the time, changing different ideas, speaking to different people, thinking about other places, other languages, other cultures. I have this ideas about what's going on in this part of the world, and I have ideas of how we can fix this part of the world. Like there's so many different back and forths. And Jupiter and Gemini, they really need to know how to be like impartial to information. You know what I'm saying? I think Jupiter and Gemini's greatest gift is when they can understand duality and they can really understand that like this side thinks this thing, this side thinks that thing. I am going to like really just like let myself feel through, which is important, what's going on versus just trying to like pinpoint what you might think is right. I know I'm getting a little bit meta with this, but the reason why I'm saying is Jupiter and Gemini is because like you're supposed to know what the gallery is saying, but you're supposed to also like be responsible with what you know is like spiritually true or emotionally true. And when Jupiter and Gemini is able to do that, that's when we have like the best jesters of all time that have ever exist, right? Some of the best comedians in the world that have ever exist, where they're able to understand how serious something gets and know how to still make light of it while still being serious about it. While doing that, like Jupiter and Gemini, people are going to think of you as a rascal in some cases, but it's an endearing way. They're like, oh, look at this rascal. He's always running about, You know what I'm saying? Jupiter and Gemini, you probably flirt with a lot of people. Like, or if you don't flirt with a lot of people, you probably should. It's just gonna like start to like really give you that, and not flirt to like date or lead anybody on, but like, you know, sometimes you gotta be like, hey, yo, I like your shoes. Nice shoes. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever else you want to do. Like that's the type of vibe that ends up coming through there. Now, Jupiter and Gemini, the one last thing that I want to put, especially as we're in Jupiter and Gemini right now, make sure that you're like writing. Writing is one of those things that like I feel like as a collective we've gotten so away from, especially because we typically type on our phones, or we have like other means of like, you know, changing up and making variables of things, right? But one thing that I do want to like really point out and give y'all some context on is Jupiter and Gemini is like, you're gaining a lot of information, but you don't know why you're getting all the information yet, right? Like, you don't always have to know what's happening all the time, but Jupiter and Gemini wants to. And I think one of the things that I want to mention to like Jupiter and Air, and especially just anyone who's listening, we need to get more into notebooks again. We need to get more into writing things by hand. Like there's a need to like really dig in to that portion of things a lot more that's coming up. And hopefully that gives somebody a little bit of that. But Jupiter and Gemini, you know, get your thoughts out. You know, that's the reason. There's a reason why there's so many people writing. There's a reason why there's so much technology rising that lets people communicate things better. You know what I'm saying? Like there's so many things that when I first, let's say even as a creative, I stepped into as a creative that like I had to learn from scratch. You know what I'm saying? But like now we're at this place where through communication and through people stop gatekeeping communication, we've gotten into such a different bracket of like ability and tangibility. And the fact that like the way that you hear my voice right now is like 6, 7, 8 years worth of like audio experience. Like, you get what I'm saying? But it's because I learned from things. You learn from a little clip here. Like, you know, Jupiter and Air is very social media. But the reason why I want to point that out is because like sometimes you need to get back into like what's going on before you pop up to try to like make your next viral reel or whatever we do in our world. Now, don't get me wrong, your boy know how to go viral, but like that's because of that. Speaking of, here's my course about, I don't actually have a creator course about that yet, but if anyone is interested in that, please let me know. I'll see what I can do. But yeah, so-called business said Gemini sun and been writing a lot. That's because Jupiter's in your sign, and guess what? You're getting into some real different emotive things because of it, right? Something to know. My mentor Deborah Silverman, she's putting out a book this April 8th. It's called I Don't Believe in Astrology. I would high key recommend, if you are Jupiter and Air specifically, that you should get that because first of all, love her. Second of all, just for you to really like go through and see what that is, and hearing the quote of I don't believe in astrology being written during Jupiter and Gemini by a Gemini. Just something for you to know. So hopefully that sticks for whoever here in that Jupiter and Air. Next thing, Jupiter and Libra. Jupiter and Libra, y'all some hoes, respectfully. Love you. That's it. Okay, bye. No, play. All right, so Jupiter and Libra. In actuality, like all jokes aside, Jupiter and Libra, y'all are the relationship like gurus. Like for real. Like Jupiter in Libra knows how relationship is supposed to work, and their philosophy behind relationship is so much different. Like for Jupiter and Libra, it is better to have love and loss than have never lost at all. And I think for them, they really do have this like every experience, every like fling, every date, every friend to me, friend relationship situations, they thought I was cute. So like all of those type of situations that happen, like I know I was playing around about it at the beginning, and like I'm pro host, so like I'm just, you know, but I can say, be safe though. Be safe, for real. The streets is crazy out here, respectfully. But what I can say though is that like in the terms of all of this, right? The Jupiter and Libra portion of things is that like that's how you start to reflect your own greatness. As a matter of fact, as a Jupiter and Libra, you have to realize that if you start getting into like really higher up places and spaces, that's because of your energetic, not because of who you're next to. That's a really important thing I want to point out to y'all. Because y'all might think that a lot of the times it's just because you know how to finesse into different situations, and like it actually has to do with your vibration, not theirs. So don't let anyone talk you out of your power with that, Jupiter and Libra, right? Now, here's where I think Jupiter and Libra gets a little bit of flack. Jupiter, historically, in terms of like Zeus and stuff like that, was the worst Tatiana ever. And he didn't understand relationship at all, or he just didn't care. You know what I'm saying? The reason why it's so important for you as a Jupiter and Libra to like, and here's what I have to say. Jupiter and Libra, you can do whatever you want. Also, especially if you've grown, you know, do whatever you want. Like, but at the same time, what I'm trying to say, you have to like really recognize that like who you're trying to settle for is how you also feel about yourself. And I don't know how else to put that, because like when you start to like put yourself into better positions, or like you're like, oh yeah, I could have a celebrity as a best friend. That's no problem. When you start thinking about that, you start to attract that. When you start being like, man, I'm the boss around here. So if I want to be a boss, I might as well be around bosses. You'll become a boss. I'm giving you some tea. I've been going off this whole day. Anyway, like, I do this for real, I guess. That's cool. But when it gets to Jupiter and air, right, there's this idea when it gets to your ability to like elaborate and communicate, like Jupiter and Libra, like you have to be really mindful of like, you have to be mindful about who you charm, or like how much finesse you put into who you charm. Because if you're putting, you know what, so-called business, I love that. It just said, it sounds like on the other side of Tatiana, they are the king of self-love. I couldn't have said it better. Now that right there, Jupiter and Libra, and I appreciate you bringing up the self-love part, because that's what it is. And I'm not saying I'm on some cliche part, but it's like, man, I like me. I know what I like. I know what I want. And if you can't match that, I'm out. Come on, Jupiter and Libra. Come on. And that goes from business. That goes from like relationship. That goes for all of that, straight up. So just like really make sure that you honor your own vibration and figure out how to find your own peace, because nobody else can make peace outside of you for you. Oh, I'm going off. Let's go. Shout out Jupiter. You know what I'm saying? We out here. Jupiter said, you know, the hand thing I just said. Shout out Jupiter. I think Jupiter is literally like right there, like right now. I'm so serious. Like I think Jupiter is directly above me right now. That's interesting. Okay, so as I continue, Jupiter and Aquarius. Let's talk about y'all. Jupiter and Aquarius. Y'all weird, bro. But I love that though, because the thing about it is that Jupiter and Aquarius, I'll put it like this, and I think y'all are gonna get it. If you're Jupiter and Aquarius, I feel like you might think that you're like from the future. I don't know how to explain it. I'm just gonna go with the intuition on this vibe. But like, it's like y'all feel like y'all are from the future. So when you look at other stuff, like certain things don't excite you. You're like, that's cool. Like they're like, oh, this and they're like, oh, that's whatever. And then you'll find some like vintage piece from like 1942, and you'll be like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. What is going on? Like, it's almost like with Jupiter and Aquarius, you're like disinterested in what other people find interesting, because you're more interested in the other things that everyone else missed. But that's where your power comes in as well. Because with Jupiter and Aquarius, like y'all have such really like specific, what's the word? Man. Y'all have such specific like niches. There we go. That you're into, like niches that you are into, things that you like enjoy. So you're going to be very knowledgeable about the things that you enjoy. And because you're so knowledgeable about what you enjoy, it gives you a perspective on how to really tap into everything else. It's one of the best finesses about astrology as a concept, is once you understand all 12 parts of that and you understand all 12 of your part, you understand everything else a little bit more. Neither here nor there, just come through and get a reading. I can give you as much sauce as can be served in that timing. So with that being said though, the other part to Jupiter and Aquarius, first of all, y'all should learn astrology. Like I'm not saying that on some plug stuff at all. Like literally y'all should learn astrology, because Jupiter in, or Aquarius rules astrology, first of all. Jupiter is one of the spiritual sides. Like you need to kind of relate spirituality back to science or things that you see in the world, or else you're gonna like not know how to like accept it. I don't know how else to explain that. But for Jupiter and Aquarius, I just want to kind of note that like your community also is one of the things that's going to like really push you forward. If you're a Jupiter and Aquarius person, I suggest you start learning how to stream. I suggest you put out content for fun. I suggest you like get into some chat rooms, start yapping with some people who care about things that are similar to you. Because Jupiter and Aquarius, when you start to spread the idea or you start to spread the information and spread the love in that regard, that's when things start to like really change up and make a different perspective in your life and then within your world. So Jupiter and Aquarius, don't over rely on being smart. Don't over rely on being the smartest in the room. Jupiter and Aquarius, like you are a very intelligent soul. That's just how you're set up and built. But like, don't let that get into like hubris is what I have to say. Like, don't get to the shadow of that, the God complex, so to speak, of Aquarius in terms of that. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but like you can't be so far removed that you forget that you're a part of the puzzle too. And when you remember you're part of the puzzle and you remember your part of the puzzle is to be the weird part of the puzzle and be the piece that doesn't fit in fully, that's when luck really starts coming to you. Oh, I am on it today. Okay, let's get to the next part. All right, so that's Jupiter. That's Jupiter in air. So shout out to all y'all, right? We have Jupiter in water, and then I have a special last bit for every sign as we go through. So if you left already, that's on you. That's how I feel. Okay, so I told you we're gonna hit 2 hours. That's crazy. Of course, the Jupiter masterclass is going to be the longest masterclass where I can't stop yapping because I'm like, I need to teach them more. I need to tell them more things. Let's get them better. Of course. Appreciate y'all for being here. Please leave a like so the motion of the planets put my content in front of them, because I will not give that credence to the thing that starts with a that everyone likes to talk about. So what I will do is talk about Jupiter and water. Jupiter and water placements expand through deep emotional connection, their intuitive wisdom, and finding growth in their compassion. Now, here's the problem, though, on the other side of this, right? Jupiter and water, since you are at the height of experience, coming of age, and emotion, you know what I'm saying? The emotion part really puts you in a different category. If you have Jupiter and water, you're going to feel like a Pisces does sometimes, or you're going to feel like you're a water sign. Like that's how prominent that's going to feel, because like you're going to learn through like when you're upset, when you're really overjoyed, when you're like in that in between, that's going to like really like put you into a different space. Like you are very much the high priestesses and the hierophants of like the world. Like you hold that emotional space really often, right? And you might even be the emotional anchor at work. You might be the person that the boss talks smack to about everybody else and just be like, okay, it's only between, like, you might be that for like a handful of people. Like you could be someone who knows a mega important person and you're their emotional confidant and like know whatever people. Like there's a certain part with Jupiter and water where like your spirituality has a lot to do with how you feel. And like, so if you're someone who like people who have Jupiter and water, if you grew up in a church and you felt that feeling and that feeling made you feel good and it made you feel like that part of the whole, you're going to really probably like rep that maybe forever, right? If you have Jupiter and water and you fall in love with a certain type of person, I'm gonna be real with you, you're going to stay real consistent about that for a hot minute, whether it's good for you or not. You know what I'm saying? Like Jupiter and water, they feel like the fullness and the totality of like what they're going for and aiming for, and like they're following their dreams to the fullest. However, these dreams are also in the same ilk of water. So they're going through on an emotional scale. And as much as like we love to like embrace our emotions, we can't live fully through our emotions because like that's extra and bad things happen when you do that. But what I can say when it comes to water signs in Jupiter, so if you have Jupiter in Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces, let's start off, right? Now, Jupiter in Cancer, you have the best benefit, because the more in your feelings you get, the more opulence you bring. Like Jupiter in Cancer, you can give someone a soulful story. You can make an entire room cry and everyone will come to you and thank you for it. They'll be like, I didn't know I haven't had an emotional knowing this in so long. You've expanded my idea about how I feel about this thing. Oh my God. Like the poets. And I think I opened up and I was talking about Billie Eilish earlier. Billie Eilish has Jupiter in Cancer, right? And she won the Oscar last year for What Was I Made For, right? And if you really listen to that, oh my God, heart wrenching, right? Even the song that she did for like the Bond thing, oh my God, right? You feel this whole ocean of like music and feeling. Like that's Jupiter in Cancer. Like you're able to do that for anything. You can have a picnic with friends and you're like, I'm gonna make the vibe be exactly what I want for the vibe. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what y'all power is. So Jupiter in Cancer, you are a matchmaker. You are someone who's going to know how to do that. But I want to say that like Jupiter in Cancer, you start to reach real opulence when you can take the lessons that you might have learned from like either your mother or a maternal figure that you've had, flip it into your own and start to build your own home based off of like some of the ideas that may have been taught or passed down onto you. That's stupidly specific, but like I'm so serious. Like there's like this, when you start to honor the matriarchal lineage, whether you're a male or female with that Jupiter and Cancer portion, or maybe it's your grandmother, maybe it's an aunt, whatever, like you're able to like really take a different perspective. Like I'm feeling this right now as I'm explaining this, because like there's a really strong part to like the ancestral world. As a matter of fact, if you have Jupiter in Cancer, you're probably like your ancestor's favorite kid. Like they're probably like, oh, this is a good one. They're gonna have a good time. Like literally, like that's just the case. Like you're being really divinely guided in a way that I think is very different from everyone else. So something to keep in mind, and I hope that makes sense for y'all. Yeah, Jupiter in Cancer. Y'all also have to really pay attention to the moon signs. If you're going to manifest anything as a Jupiter in Cancer, know the moon sign, know what's going on, know how it's happening in your chart. This should happen for everybody anyway, one step at a time. But Jupiter in Cancer, that's stupidly more important for y'all. So make sure you pay attention to that as well. That's you straight facts. It's frustrating existing now while you're mentally in the future. Yeah, I feel that. Okay, let's get to the next part, right? Jupiter and Scorpio. Jupiter and Scorpio is a really interesting one. Jupiter and Scorpio, you find your luck when you like become, it's almost like, I feel like it's like the old black and white detective films. When I think about Jupiter and Scorpio, like if you live your everyday and you're like almost narrating in the back of your head where it's like, I walked in the room slowly, then I grabbed my drink. And what was this drink? What's in this stuff anyway? And then I felt a gust of breeze, my hair attached to a microphone. Something's off about that. Like when if you're like living your like, if you're like almost narrating your brain like this and you're like discovering more stuff as like a Jupiter and Scorpio, like I think you're really like tapped into something that's very different from everyone else. But I literally think like that almost that wanting to dig in deeper, that need to go like within things, that need to most importantly like feel your feelings through about something, or like follow things through to like the end in certain cases and ways. Like there's a really important part to that when it comes to Jupiter and Scorpio, to where it's like you have to like really dig into what is going on this underworld level, because typically with Jupiter and Scorpio, you're going to be connected to you're just going to connect to sometimes people's darker renditions, or even sometimes darker parts of themselves, or maybe like you are the person that people can talk to about things like that, and you give them advice, or like, hey, like maybe you knew someone who did X, Y, and Z, or maybe you knew someone that whatever. Like Jupiter and Scorpio, you kind of play like, when I think Jupiter and Scorpio, I kind of think of like how like every lower incomes, but every hood has like that one OG, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like and like you could tell them whatever and they're just like, I seen that back in '83. Let me tell you about that, boy. Blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just one of those things that I at least see when it comes to that. But Jupiter and Scorpio, I'm gonna tell you this too. you're going to find expansion of self and understanding of emotional and spiritual self, like through your sexuality. There's no other way to put that. Like through your sexuality, through all of those changes and things like that. That's really how that's going to like start to occur to you and make sense for you. So explore that, and don't necessarily judge yourself for that exploration either. How that shows up, especially if it's someone in here who's like leaning on the LGBTQ way of things. Like, don't necessarily judge yourself for it. Just like feel through it, see like what's going on, and find your relationship to what's going on with all of that. That's my biggest suggestion. Because if you look on the outside and try to ask everybody else, it might not work the same way. But if you find that like real understanding and light within yourself, and you get to see clearly what it is that you rock with, that's going to be a very different conversation. Yeah, that's what I got for you, Jupiter and Scorp. Okay, so Jupiter and Pisces. Last but certainly not least, Jupiter and Pisces, y'all are so spiritual. Man, Jupiter and Pisces, y'all have the same ability that Pisces has that I'll talk about, where it's like y'all just get to instantly manifest random stuff. And it's like, how did y'all do that? How did y'all just pull that out of like nothing? That doesn't make any sense. How did you just do that? Right. Jupiter and Pisces, I do have to tell you this though. Your luck and abundance, whatever way you want to put it, is built off of how much you're willing to love. And that sounds weird, but it's like how much you're willing to love, how much are you willing to create, or how much are you willing to like, I'm gonna say this, how much you're willing to like put yourself out there on an emotive level, and then explore what that is and come back and learn how to like get that off of you too. Like there's this like healing process. If you have Jupiter and Pisces, you're inherently spiritual. Like you could be like, I don't believe in anything. And people will come up to you and they'll be like, wow, like you're such a healer. Did you know that? You'll be like, I don't even believe in that. What are you talking about? Jupiter and Pisces, y'all just got it. Y'all have the aura. I don't know if AMP and the streamers that I was like talking about earlier, this is the homie Duke Dennis type deal, right? Everyone talks about how he's a Pisces, but everyone talks about how he just has like a certain aura that's flowing from him. And it reminds me of Jupiter and Pisces because it's like, he just a chill dude, you know what I'm saying? And because he's a chill dude, people have like always like been like, oh, he's so this, and girls have always been like, oh, you're so blah, blah, blah. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he has the sauce, or as the folks say now, the aura. As someone else who has that aura, I understand the comprehension. But the idea with like Jupiter and Pisces, that this just like pours out of y'all. You know what I'm saying? Like there's one of the situations to where it's like you, even if you don't have it figured out yet, people will be like, you were great at this one thing. Like let's say you did like a play for the first time and you never acted on stage before. People might point you out, be like, yeah, I felt your performance. It was really different. It could be a small part. You might be like, really? Like I didn't really do much. Like the lead did that. And they'll be like, no, there's just something about like the way that you did it. That's Jupiter and Pisces. So with Jupiter and Pisces, like y'all have to low key find a source of spiritualism. What I mean by that is that like you could live your life through love. Sometimes y'all find religion. Sometimes y'all find like you have to like find what makes you feel like, I don't know how to explain it. Y'all know this. If you're up in Jupiter and Pisces, you know exactly what I was trying to say. Like when I was like, everything's good. Like there's this elation. That's what I'm trying to say. With Jupiter and Pisces, especially because Jupiter also loves being in Pisces. But guess what? Jupiter and Pisces, y'all are the lover boys and lover girls of the zodiac, and you gonna shoot your shot at everybody thinking that they your soulmate. I know. That's what Zeus did. That's when he got in his Pisces bag, he was like, everything's my soulmate. I need to vote. Like, listen, you have that aura as well. Don't get me wrong. And like a lot of times I think that like y'all help people out in figuring out certain parts or in-betweens of their lives as well. I think that's a very strong ability that y'all have in your healing process of self and also through others. Because sometimes as a Jupiter and Pisces, the universe is just going to be like, do this thing. Neither here nor there if you're a Jupiter and Pisces, pull through for the mini reading. But the idea when it comes to all this is that like with Jupiter and Pisces, I would just say don't let yourself get too escapist to where you lose yourself in the process, right? It's okay for you to like enjoy yourself. It's okay to party. It's okay to whatever, but like don't get too far into anything to where like you're like blacking out or like anything else. Because with Jupiter and Pisces, that gets into really weird territory for y'all. I just want to let you know, like, it's in a really weird territory for y'all. Oh, y'all just letting Jupiter and Pisces do whatever. Just keep that in mind. You know what I'm saying? I was for sure hitting the nerve. That's what I do. But that's because when we hit nerves, we see that things are there that need to be addressed, and we address them. And we find power there most of the time. So that's why I love this astrology stuff. So I just hair flipped you off of one dread. I don't know who this is even to. It's not directed at anybody at all, honestly. I really be yapping. But this is the Maverick show. I don't have balloon stuff yet. I can sing in reverb. I'll do that at the end when I leave. I'll just reverb the rest of it when I go, just for fun. Moderation, yeah, damn right. Moderation, that's for any Jupiter. Jupiter's moderation is all of them. Because Jupiter is just ready to excess anywhere. If you push Jupiter too hard anywhere, you're doing too much. Like, pull back, chill out. It'll be good. You know what I'm saying? Greatness comes in spurts. Forever comes in moments. Being the best, now that takes forever. But if your gratitude goes above it all, you can make it through. I don't know if any of that made sense, but if it did, I'm cold. Okay, let's get to the next part of this, right? So let's get to this. All right, just my last note. So if you have Jupiter in any sign right now, you're going to get one last tidbit to end this off. Mind you, we're holding this container during Sagittarius season. Jupiter's retrograde in Gemini, so it's as close as possible. I believe Jupiter is. Hold on. I'm gonna double check. Because I feel like I don't want to be like capping or yapping and be wrong. Oh, nope, there it is. Jupiter is over there. Jupiter is facing me from over there. Okay. So it's right there. I just wanted to make sure. I didn't know if it was right there. It's going to be right there later on where the sky moves. Not the point. I need captions for that part. No. Okay. Let's get to each one for Jupiter, all right? So let's start. We're going to go in order this time, right? Jupiter in Aries. Luck favors your bravery. Don't rush into situations without considering the consequence. However, self-confidence is your superpower, and stand up for your independence at all costs. Jupiter in Taurus. Patience and persistence is your abundance. You build wealth the steadier you are with your efforts. It's not about spikes of highs or lows. It's how consistent can we be to bring the results. Appreciate the comforts that you have in life, but don't let your fear of change limit your potential either. Jupiter and Gemini. Your greatest asset is always going to be your mind. You have to grow through using your words and connecting with people based off of what you really think. Don't get too scattered in the ideas that you try to put across. When you lean into focus on what you want to say in the message, that makes the results you actually want. Jupiter in Cancer. Emotional nurturing and making a secure emotional foundation attracts your abundance. You control the vibe of every single room that you walk in. If you are happy, everyone else will be. If you're upset, everyone else is going to feel upset for one reason or another. Lean away from your comfort zone and take some risk once in a while in terms of letting other people push the vibe forward and just to see what happens. And make sure that you still push your bravery even when things are comfortable. It's okay to get a little outside of that to reach new ideas and understandings. Jupiter and Leo. Creativity and leadership is going to light yourself going forward, right? Charisma is what's going to give you the door open, the road openers that you're looking for. Your charisma. Don't be prideful about how good you are with what you do that you miss out on delivering on what you're trying to do. So don't let validation drive your idea of knowing that you're great all on your own. Jupiter and Leo, you light your path through the strength of your heart, not through the opinions of others. Okay, Jupiter in the Virgo. Feeling like you aren't wasting your time is going to be your path to success. When you feel like you're doing meaningful work, you create results that no one else can emulate. However, you are critical of yourself and others. Your perfectionism can keep you from exploring other opportunities, avenues, or ways that people do things. Keep yourself open enough to see the difference with this. But don't let your need to be correct keep you from feeling the truth of the matter. Jupiter and Libra. Partnerships are your greatest path to growth, luck, and understanding. Harmony and the fairness that you bring out are going to attract the luck that you're looking for. But when you're leaning on others too hard to make your decisions, you're always going to be lost. When you trust your own voice and find people who want to move alongside you while you keep in mind their needs in that process, that's when you find true growth, understanding, and relationship, love, and more. So you should probably do that, respectfully. Jupiter and Scorpio. Your path to abundance has everything to do with you transforming your fear into your power. Empowerment, as a matter of fact, thrives with you as you embrace the mysteries of life and the things that you don't understand. The more that you start to leave behind the obsession of having the correct outcome, and you explore what it means to feel through the exploration of what you're seeking, is when the change that you're aiming for actually happens. Jupiter and Sagittarius. Okay, one second. There we go. Jupiter and Sagittarius. Luck is on your side. You're the only sign I will say luck exists for. Like, truly. You and Cancer, low-key. But luck is your companion that goes alongside with you. And as a matter of fact, you open up doors for other people through your exuberance. The curiosity that you have ends up bringing in opportunities not only for yourself, but for other people around you. You can connect someone to their dream job by accident simply because you put two and two together. Jupiter and Sag, trust in the signs, but don't overextend yourself chasing waterfalls or preaching too much to people. Let yourself do God's work. Through doing God's work, you don't have to take it up all on your own. Cool. Jupiter in Capricorn. Discipline and ambition guide you to your success. Hard work and planning will lead to lasting rewards, but you can't be too focused on achievement that you lose the expense of joy in your personal relationships. You have to also have an outlet. You have to have people that you care about. You have to have time to just exist and to explore and to just enjoy the things that you want to enjoy. And that's going to be bringing you a very different look in terms of how Jupiter and Capricorn works. Don't let your work make you. You make yourself, and the work becomes easy. Jupiter and Aquarius. Innovation and community is what drives your growth. You want to be original and you want to think forward. And the more people you can bring along with you instead of rebelling against the cause will bring you the opportunities you need. Yes, you're different. Yes, you're smarter. Yes, you know more things than other people. But don't become too attached that you alienate yourself from opportunities because you're not willing to relate to other people's struggle or ideas. Keep an open mind, open up others' minds, and you'll find the balance in between. Jupiter and Pisces. Your intuition and your compassion is going to always guide you to your abundance. If you trust your dreams and your emotional insight, you'll find all the things that you've been looking for. Do not have unrealistic expectations of other people. Not everyone is as miraculous and magical as you can be on a whim. If you ground your vision with the practicality of how everyone else's relationship to luck and abundance works, you're going to find a way better understanding between that and the process. So Jupiter and Pisces, the last thing I want to leave you with is you are the magic. Keep in mind that you're the magic. When other people address you as the magic, just accept it as such. But don't forget to remind them of theirs in that process either. And that, ladies and gentlemen, theys, gays, and all those other than and in between, I hope that this has been able to give you a lot of insight into Jupiter, a lot of insight into the planet of luck, opulence, abundance. I wanted to give you something a little bit different than what you would just look up, something different than what the info will just kind of like, give out to you or anything else like that. So I hope that you all have been able to enjoy this transmission, for lack of better terms, of Jupiter during my season. You know what I'm saying? I had a wonderful birthday just recently, and I think there was this moment I had where I was like, oh, I have to get back to everyone's comments, and it was everyone that like wished me a happy birthday, and seeing so many people that I've run across either in the world of astrology or in the world of like creativity, or like, sometimes you don't notice how much what you do or how you vibrate can impact people. And I think that like having that moment just recently, even within that, like I saw my YouTube feedback for the year, and it's been the most it's ever been. And I've been able to bring in a community of such amazing people. The fact that I've been talking for 2 something hours and there's about like 25 of y'all in here, it's surreal to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, we are really like holding this space, and we're letting whoever else wants to kind of get the information in. A lot of people have been asking me beforehand, peers and such. They're like, do you have like a community that's like, just like you, or is it like a closed thing off? And I'm like, I really do have a little bit of like, I might not see YouTube, right? Like it's to the people, and whoever wants to dig in deeper or like come through for something else, or get a reading, or learn something different, or just talk to me about something. We get into a whole different like insight and world, and it's really cool to kind of just do that without like a paywall so far. Not to say that can never exist, because that's not necessarily true. I still got Jupiter and Earth, you know what I'm saying? I got to do what I got to do. But to like really at least real time grassroots starts off power, to like this. I'm feeling what I'm saying right now, man. I ain't mean to get all deep with this, but like, this is part of it. And I'll just appreciate every one of y'all on this path and journey, and to be able to go from like, learning about all this 15 years ago at this point almost, was crazy to think, to like do what my 15-year-old self always wanted to like do is wow, you know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, just appreciative. I hope that this Jupiter part taught you some things, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't know what else to say. Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all. Hope you come through for the masterclass, if not book a reading. If I can yap about everyone else's Jupiter, imagine what I can do for your birth chart, and conversation. We have a little quick coffee. We could talk, chill, explain the stuff, get into the details. But genuinely speaking, thank y'all for showing up. Thank y'all for being here and watching through. It's wild, man. Like, it's a beautiful thing. Yeah, I'm gonna get mad sentimental. So I'm just gonna click this and be like, hey y'all, here this is. Yeah, I'm using my Jupiter. Yeah, everyone go buy stuff. Yeah, oh, we'll go look at this. I explain all of Capricorn season. What other astrologer do you know explain all of Capricorn season a week before it popped through? Not many. I'm sure someone did it, but I did it. That's what I'm getting at. Anyway, appreciate y'all. Yeah. Okay. Oh wait, that's what I was gonna do. This is the last thing I was gonna do. I don't know if it's gonna work. Oh no, it's not gonna work. Oh, it's fine. Anyway, at some point I'm gonna do the reverb thing. Because that'll be cool. Anyway, appreciate y'all. Much love. Stay blessed.